Welcome to the Heat versus the World podcast. And now, stand up and make some noise for your host, Joe Jacob.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joel Jacob, and with me, I got my guy, Deem, and we got a great episode for you guys. Before we get any further to the show, I just want to say, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really does help us out a lot. And also, we hope you guys had a very happy holidays, especially as we're recording this the day after Christmas. And speaking of Christmas, I mean, the Heat finally got a Christmas Day game after 3 years. And it was a game that honestly didn't disappoint, if you ask me. And it's because the Miami Heat came out and they were able to beat the Sixers without Jimmy Butler playing. And it was a fun game, not going to lie. And the reason why was because looking at some of the things that we saw in this game, I mean, let's look at this real quick. Jaime Jaquez Jr. had 31 points, 10 rebounds, and he became the first rookie since Patrick Ewing, y'all. Patrick Ewing, the dude is in already great company right now. He was the first rookie since Patrick Ewing to have a 30-point, 10 rebound, actually a 30-10, double-double, whatever you want to call it, in a Christmas Day game since Ewing. And not only that, but you have Bam with 26 points, 15 rebounds, 5 assists and 3 blocks, and already my bird going crazy because he hyped up about Jaime. And then my guy Tyler, 22 points, 4 triples, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Duncan had us in the game, 16 points, 5 triples, and 4 rebounds. Y'all know how he do it. And then Lowry had 12 points and 4 assists. Overall, it was a great game. I do want to acknowledge before we get any further that the injury bug does seem to continue to bite us in the butt because not only did we have to deal with Jimmy sitting out this game, but in case y'all missed it, earlier in the game, Caleb ended up getting hurt. He was kind of like, it was kind of a bit of a hustle play, I guess you could say. He was going for a loose ball. He ended up diving into the stands a bit, and he ended up tweaking that ankle, and he did not return for the game. Hopefully he can make a full recovery because, like I said, we're already dealing with a lot of injuries right now because not only did Jimmy not play, but Haywood Highsmith didn't play, nor did Josh Richardson. So we can't afford to lose another guy. So Caleb, rest up, and we hope to see you back soon. But yeah, so overall, looking back at this game, I mean, I just want to say real quick, and I don't want to dwell on the Dame trade too much, but one meme that I see on Twitter a lot is how people say how whenever we win games, we're having our Dame package beat some of these teams. And, yesterday we honestly had the Dame package beat the 76ers because we mentioned Jaime, we mentioned Tyler, who would have been another guy in that package. And then you had Duncan and Kyle also having good games here and there. So if you think about it, it was actually the Damian Lillard package that helped us beat the Philadelphia 76ers. Like obviously Bam did his thing too, so there's that. But, those 4 guys that really showed up for us, aside from Bam, were all guys that we were ready to put in that deal for a Damian Lillard. And I just wanted to acknowledge that because everybody was out here. They was talking they smack about what this type of deal could give a certain team. And you know what? I just got to say real quick, Merry Christmas to Joe Cronin. Shout outs to him for going out there and making this happen because you know what? We were willing to give them everything in the world just to get Damian Lillard. But Joe Cronin saw the potential in Jaime Jaquez. He saw the potential in Duncan Robinson. He knew that he was going to bounce back and he was going to have a breakout year this season. So he said, you know what, Miami, keep y'all assets. Milwaukee has a lot more trash for us to take in. So we're going to take that because we want to see y'all try to win a championship this year. So we'll just go take Milwaukee's trash offer instead. But thank you, though. So I really appreciate you, Joe Cronin, man. Keep doing what y'all doing. And, yeah. So now that we've got that out of the way, I do want to focus on Jaime Jaquez Jr. because I have to come out and say it. I don't know if this is a hot take, but the dude might be the greatest Mexican of all time, man. I'm gonna say it. He is the greatest Mexican of all time.
I would agree.
Like the dude has been bowling out, and I've been so happy with it because I know a lot of people were skeptical about bringing in a guy like Jaime. I know there was a lot of people saying that, oh, you should go out and maybe get a guy like a who was it, Cam Whitmore or whoever. But the dude has bowled out, and he's a top three rookie right now. I mean, to only be behind two clear favorites in Wemby and Chet Holmgren, like that right there is an honor. And shoot,
Can I say something real quick,
yep.
Joe?
Hmm.
I don't. I think this may be a hot take, but I think he's the second best rookie this year behind Chant.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
I think
You
he's
know,
the best rookie this year behind Chant. I think he clears Wemby this year. I'm not saying he's going to be a better player than Wemby, but I think this year, I think he has a better full body of work than Wemby this year.
and I'll say this,
Up to
like,
this date.
I mean, yeah, and like I'll say this one thing for Wemby, and like I won't say too much because I don't want to get into that type of debate, but like the thing with Wemby is like he's in a situation where San Antonio's basically losing out this season, and he's just out there doing his thing. So he has a lot more leverage to really go out and do whatever he wants. Meanwhile, you have a guy like Jaime who's on a team that's still trying to compete for a championship, a team that's coming off of a finals appearance last year. So, he doesn't exactly have the
Yeah,
freedom to do whatever he wants because he's playing behind a Jimmy Butler. He's playing behind a Bam Adebayo, a Tyler Hero, and heck, maybe even a Duncan Robinson too. So with that all being said, like when you're playing behind guys like them, obviously for you to continue to keep up these great performances, it's such a huge thing to see when you look at compared to a guy like a Victor Wembanyama, who, he is the number one option. I mean, who is he playing behind, So I
yeah.
won't debate regarding who's the better rookie, but even then, man, to be a top three rookie, in a class that was stacked with talent. I mean, you talk about Wembanyama. I mean, Shet wasn't part of this draft class, but still, he is part of the rookie class for this year. So he's in there too. And there was a lot of people pissed that we didn't try to get a Cam Whitmore.
I was one of those guys.
Right. And like, what were the other rookies that was out there in this class? Because I ain't gonna lie, I wasn't even paying attention.
I think
There,
I think the main one that a lot of Heat fans wanted that was like still on the board was Cam, and
yeah,
in which like he had a lot of potential, but the front office made the right decision. And as fans, we had the right to be upset at the time because obviously we don't do all the homework and we don't know everything like the front office knows. And it's okay to be wrong. That's
right,
why they're where they at. They made
right.
the right decision. That's why
And
fans don't make the decisions.
right. And it's like the thing people gotta understand is I understand sometimes they might get worried because the thing with the Heat is that they're never going to hit on every single move that they make, in the draft. Because I know some people were worked up of getting Precious Achua back in the 2020 draft because it obviously didn't work out and we ended up shipping him to Toronto for Kyle Lowry, and we ended up selecting him over Tyrese Maxey, which was another thing that annoyed fans. And then also to add on to it, you have us drafting Jovic, and I'm not saying I'm trying to like give up on him or anything, but you see how very little minutes he's getting, and I know it frustrates a lot of people, but the thing that we gotta accept is that if the Heat are not trying to give him minutes, they must know something that we do not know regarding his skill set and that maybe they just aren't able to put him on the floor because he just doesn't have what they're looking for right now. And hopefully that can change as time progresses. I don't know. I mean, who knows? Like if the Heat eventually make a trade, maybe they have to include him into the package. I'm not gonna dive into the trades and stuff because this is Christmas, well, the day after Christmas and stuff. So I'm not trying to really dwell on that. But overall, like obviously the draft is always hit or miss, even if you do have a great front office like the Heat. So the fact that they were able to get a home run and bring in a Jaime Jaquez, I mean, what more could you ask for? Especially for a team that, like I mentioned before, they're coming off of a finals run. So the fact that you could go out there and get a guy that can contribute to your team like right now, like because think about it, he's averaging like what's his total average right now? I mean, I would say it's like at least maybe 12 or 13 points per game because I know he had
I
like
think it's a
a
little more than that.
Probably because I know he had a huge streak going on where he was averaging like double figures every game until that streak ended a few days ago. But most rookies, I mean, and I forgot who said it last pod, but most rookies, all you could ask for is that they can go out and give you like a nice 6 or 7 points per game. That's not the case with Jaime. He's going out there and he's giving you everything that you could potentially want in a role player that you could bring in for this squad. And it's gotten to a point where we even had to debate on this pod at one point. Who is the fourth best player on this team? Is it a guy like Duncan? Is it a guy like what's it called? Jaime? Is
It
it a
may be Jaime. Like you can make the argument that it could be Jaime. I mean, now that I'm looking at his numbers, he's averaging 13.7 shooting the ball almost 52%. I mean, you can definitely make the argument it's Jaime. Now we'll see the rotation when the playoffs come, but I think he'll play a major role in those minutes because he does play both sides of the ball. Yes, he's not a great shooter yet, but he's going to have a big role once the playoff. Not I won't say a big role, but he have a major role when the playoff times come. But you can make the argument Jaime is the fourth best player on his team.
Right. Because that's like, and the thing is, the only thing that, I just want to keep an eye on is going to be how he does in the playoffs. Because I know one thing people always knock on is, when certain guys go to the playoffs, things might change because, the playoffs, the lights are a lot brighter than it is in the regular season. So, with that lack of experience, what could that do to a guy like Jaime? But at the same time, you're on a team like the Heat that is going to be able to prepare you for those types of moments, and being around guys like Jimmy, I think also helps a lot. And I just want to say a big shout out to a guy like Jimmy Butler because the way how he's been taking Jaime under his wing has honestly made me happy as a fan, and especially as the guy
You
that
find a better mentor.
yeah, like, because this is a guy that literally could be Mexican Jimmy Butler. I've seen a lot of people run with this agenda, and I don't think they're wrong for thinking that. And for him to take him under his wing and to bring him along for some of the stuff that he does, like we saw them do the hotel.com commercials and stuff. You love to see it. And they literally said on the broadcast that Jimmy literally told them folks, I'm not doing this pod. I'm not doing this commercial unless y'all get my rookie in there too. So to see them have such a great relationship, it's such an awesome thing to see. And I can't wait to see, what this squad can do with the guy like Jaime because we have such a tough, like we talk about Heat culture and how this is the toughest, nastiest squad out there. And iron just sharpens. What's the exact term? I think it's like iron sharpens iron or something
Iron
like
sharpens
that.
iron. Yeah.
Yep. So, you couldn't find a better place for him to go to. And, Jaime literally said it, and they mentioned it a couple times on the show yesterday. Like, he wanted to be in Miami because he knew this was the type of team that was going to have the right mindset for him. So, he found a team that he wanted to go to, and it seems like the culture fits him like a tease, similar to what we said when Jimmy first arrived to Miami back in 2019. So, overall, I'm excited, and it really does seem like we got a future, put in the post Jimmy era with Bam, Jaime, and Siler, and I couldn't ask for any more. Is there anything you want to throw in, Dean?
No, we can move on.
All right. So overall, man, so we talked about that. So yeah, my bird going crazy right now because he's still high on Jaime. Notice how every time we talk about Jaime, this dude going off. But overall, like we talked about this game, man, and I kind of want to dive into the squad as a whole because it seemed like a lot of people was getting worked up. Tyler had a solid game. I mean, he had 22 points. But I know a lot of people was going crazy because he was missing a lot of shots here and there. Bam went out and he had 20, like I said, a double-double, 26, 15, and 5 assists. And then, listen, our guy Duncan Robinson, man. I know you've been high on Duncan for a while now, Deem. Like, you
Yes,
got
sir.
to name everything Duncanville. Like, that dude gave us a Christmas gift yesterday by giving us 5 triples. Like, I'm so happy right now. Like, how do you feel right now, seeing that this dude is continuing to shoot the ball at such a high level?
I'm extremely excited, man. I've been hoping for this Duncan since last year. We got to get one day get my guy Anthony Donardo in here so I can rub it in his face a little bit. But no, on a serious note, man, I'm excited for Duncan this season. I If you go back and watched, I predicted Duncan to have a season like this in the beginning of the season. I thought he was going to play well. I thought he was going to have a good bounce back year. But if you look at Duncan all around game, you've seen he has gotten better. He's putting the ball on the floor more. He's going to the basket, finishing strong. Duncan has improved drastically, like tremendously this year. Like you see the improvements all around on the court, not just with his shooting, but his confidence and everything. I think that was lost the maybe the past 2 years, but this Duncan has improved more. Like he has his confidence got back. He got his confidence back, and being a shooter, and once you lose your confidence, it's like it's pretty much downhill from there. So it's a good thing that he got his confidence back, he got his groove back, and hopefully this Duncan shows up in the playoffs, which I don't expect him to play like this all year. He's going to have some down moments, like he already had a couple times this year. But hopefully he have more highs than lows this year. But I'm super excited for Duncan, man. I'm super excited.
Right. And I just want to say, like, everyone mentions how he should be a candidate for most improved player because
Yes, yes. I mentioned that on the Biscayne breakdown episode last week. Go watch that if y'all haven't.
yep.
But yeah, he's definitely should be a candidate, man. I'm real close on buying a Duncan jersey this year, man.
I mean, I might too at this point. If we win the championship, I might buy the whole team's jerseys at this point. Cause screw it, man. Like, but I gotta say, one thing with Duncan, and we use the word improved, right? And I want to say he necessarily improved. Not that he hasn't, but the word I want to use to describe how Duncan has blossomed, that word is none other than the fact that he's evolved. Because the thing with shooters, right, is like, we're starting to witness a bit of an evolution. And when it comes to evolution, you either adapt or you perish, right?
Yeah,
And the thing with Duncan
great
is,
point.
like we've seen a lot of 3-point specialists out here, and they went and got paid. Duncan got his 90 mil from the Heat, and we've also seen it
He may
elsewhere.
have been the first too. He may have been
Yeah.
the first.
Well, I don't think he was the first, because like I know Joe Harris from Brooklyn, I think he got like 80 million, and Davis
Was
Bertans,
this before Duncan's contract? Joe
I
Harris?
I believe so. I think Davis Bertans got his before Duncan's as well. I think he got like 80 mil from the Wizards too. Like, but the reason why I want to mention that is because, you know, all of these guys, they went and got paid. And you can make an argument that Duncan is literally outpaying his contract, because the reason why he's only getting paid that type of money is because he was just viewed as a 3-point specialist. But I don't think you can view him as that anymore, because he's doing so much aside from just hitting that three ball,
Yeah,
And
he's done much more.
yeah, and the thing is like, and like I said before, it's adapt or perish. And I've seen so many guys, so many of these 3-point specialists perish, because I mentioned guys like a Joe Harris and Davis Bertans. Where the heck are they right now? I don't know where they
I
are.
don't know
Okay.
either.
I don't know if I think Joe Harris left Brooklyn, but I don't know what he's been up to since then. I know Bertans got traded from the Wizards. I think he went to Dallas. I don't know if he's still there. But those were two guys that their franchises counted on them to be a long-term part of their future because of how great their shooting was. But yet they managed to perish, and that's why their teams parted ways with them. Duncan, on the other hand, he's still on the third year of his deal with the Heat, and he's still part of the squad that he signed that contract with in the first place.
Absolutely, yeah.
And even though it didn't happen right away, obviously there was some struggles here and there. He eventually was able to adapt, and that's why he is where he is right now. And that's why I want to give him his flowers, especially because it wasn't easy to get to this point. I know that for him. Like, he mentioned it on his podcast. Like, I think if it was last season or the season before, but he dealt with a lot of mental health struggles because it was tough for
It's
him.
tough. It's tough being
Yeah, like the fact that you're out here making this type of money and the expectations go up even more for you. So
That's why I say, once you lose that confidence as a shooter, it's hard to gain that back. And then you got to understand, Duncan, he got a lot of DNPs last year, like
yup.
tons of them. And then he was
And like
on a short leash too, man. Like one
mhm.
bad shot and Spo will pull him. I mean, he lost his confidence. I would totally believe that, he lost his confidence last year, the last 2 years.
Right. And like I just want to acknowledge because you mentioned a good point that I was about to hit on, like the whole thing with the leash, because it must have been so hard for him to see Miami go out and bring in a guy like Max Strus from like the LA Fitness or whatever. And like they would just give him so much minutes in these games and stuff. And he could go out there and chuck up how many threes he wanted to. And it didn't matter if he missed all of them, they would still gave him more opportunities than they gave a guy like Duncan. And like I know that right there also had to hurt as well because it's like if you're Duncan and you miss like one triple, it's like okay, like you're on thin ice already. But if Max is up there and he's shooting up enough bricks to make a whole house with, he still doesn't have to worry about his time being cut or him having to face less minutes or having to go to the bench unless it's really necessary. So I'm proud of Duncan because he really stood through everything. And to see him finally get to reap the rewards that he definitely deserves, going through the hardest of moments, like it's such a great thing to see. And I don't know, like, I won't say he's as good of a shooter. He's a better shooter now than he was in 2020 because
Nah.
2020 Duncan was like a beast, bro. I don't
Yeah.
think people understand. Like the dude made 273s in 73 games. Okay, and like he's made I think now 89 threes this season in 28 games. So that is a lot. But when you
Wow.
think about that, it's like even then he's still on pace to have if he was to play like the whole season, he would be on track to still score a lot less threes than he did in that 2020 season. And I mean, that just goes to show how much of a beast he was that year. But also, like, even with that all being said, one thing I will acknowledge, though, is that Duncan now is clearly a much better player than in 2020. He might not be as lethal of a shooter that he once was. Like, because, like I said, 2020 Duncan, that was a monster, all right? But even then, like, the dude is still shooting out of his mind. And the dude had, like I said, I said developed, bro. I'm sorry. He evolved his game to be more than just a 3-point specialist. And that's why he's still with the team that he signed that contract with. While, like I said before, guys like Adavis Bertans, guys like Joe Harris, they're not even, nobody thinks about them anymore. Nobody's trying to bring them on their team because they know that they're not really like that anymore. Their game just flat out perished. Meanwhile, Duncan is showing people wrong. And, like I said before, like people were criticizing him and trying to make it seem like Duncan was one of the worst contracts in the league. Now we're out here and we're having a legit convo about Duncan outplaying his contract, man.
See,
If
at the
not,
time, like I was a big critic of the Duncan contract when he first signed it. I'm not going to lie. I was
I'm
always a fan of Duncan, but I was one of the critics because I said I don't think it's a good idea to pay a 3-point specialist that that contract.
and it
And
was the market at the time, just
yeah,
throwing.
yeah, you're right, it was. But those two years where he was not playable,
Mhm.
that I do believe that was one of the worst contracts in basketball because you have that on your books and you're not getting no value from it. I believe like that's a bad contract. When you have that high of a number on the books and he's not giving you no value, I believe like that's a bad contract. Now, in the 2024 or 23 season, it's a great contract because you're getting the value. So I mean, it's all about supply and demand. Nah, not supply and demand, but it's all about the value. Like now you seeing the value that you're getting from that contract, and he's he's exceeded the value of his contract. So
Right.
now I get it, but then it was a bad contract 2 years ago because you
Oh
really
yeah.
getting nothing for it.
Yeah, and you understood the frustrations at the time because it's like, as you mentioned, this was the guy that was racking up DMPs. I remember not this past playoffs, but the year before that, that 2022 run
Yeah,
around. He had that one monster game against Atlanta where he hit
Atlanta. Yeah,
50 threes, but after that, the dude was barely playing for us, and it was
against Philly.
crazy because it's like we could really use a guy that we're paying 90 million to hit threes in these types of games, but we're not even doing that. Like instead, like I mentioned before with Struce, we were giving him those minutes instead. Like in big games where we were trying to, keep our playoff hopes alive, whether if it was game 7 against Boston or wherever, we were having guys like Struce on the floor, not the guy that we was paying 90 million to go out there and do his thing. So like I said, now I want to dwell too much because I do want to hit on a couple more things before we wrap up on the pod. But like, man, shout outs to Duncan, bro, because every day he goes out there and does his thing. It makes a guy like me happy because it should make a lot of Heat fans happy actually because we've seen the struggles for him and to see him finally strive and to show people that he was worthy of that contract when he was literally known around the league of having the nastiest contract in the whole NBA. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more from him. Is there anything you want to say, Dean, before we move on?
Nah, I have nothing else to say on the Duncan topic.
All right. So moving on, man. I mean, so we talked about Jaime, we talked about Duncan. I mean, we're basically doing a pod on the whole Dame package already. But now it's time to like move on to let's talk about Christmas Day altogether because I want to say real quick, I just want to like have a small little dialogue on this before we move further. I heard you and Kate talking about this on the last Biscayne breakdown. By the way, as Dee mentioned earlier, make sure y'all check that out. It's the #1 viewed video on our YouTube channel. Shout outs to y'all for doing y'all thing, and shout outs to y'all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. We really appreciate it. But yeah, y'all mentioned like the whole thing how the NBA kind of stopped with the jerseys and stuff, and I saw a lot of people mention this on Twitter last night. It seems like the aura behind Christmas Day is no longer there because none of these games have any value of any sorts. Like, it seems like there's just no serious rivalries with some of these games. It's like they're just putting random teams against each other and everybody's kind of friends. So it's like it doesn't really matter who wins. And I kind of hate it, man, because it's like I remember back in the day when you used to get some nice looking what's it called, Christmas Day jerseys and stuff. And
And then
now,
the sneakers. Also, I don't know if you guys are sneakerheads, but you got some great sneakers. The
yup,
Christmas Day editions. Last night, Jalen Brown had some Kobe's on, and for you guys who don't know, that's not into sneakers, he actually signed with Adidas.
yup,
So or is it Converse? I can't remember. I don't know if it's Adidas or Converse, but he took the Nike swoosh off the his Kobe's last night. So he paid homage to Kobe last night, but took the Nike check off. That was like a big, I say a big moment in the basketball sneaker world, But yeah, it's not, the aura's not there anymore. And LeBron also, he mentioned that on a Twitter post
yup.
the night before Christmas.
Like that's the thing, and there's no jerseys, and like I said, the games don't seem to have any like good meaning. I mean, cause if you're a Heat fan, if you've been around for a lot of these Christmas Day games, I remember back when we used to have games like Heat versus Lakers 2000, I want to say 4. That was the year where Kobe and Shaq played for the first time against each other as
Yeah.
those games like that is what folks wanted to see. Stuff like that. Or when LeBron came back to Miami for the first
That,
time in 2014, like those
that was my
games meant
favorite.
something. Is there anything you want to throw in, Dean?
No, I just literally what you said. I think my favorite Christmas Day basketball moment that I could remember was when LeBron came back to Miami and lost to Dwayne Wade and them guys. The 2004 thing when Shaq played Kobe, I was a young buck. I was only about 5, so honestly, I don't know too much about that. I mean, obviously, I seen the game like years later, like recently, but
Right.
at the time, no, I was too busy playing, not paying attention to
Oh no,
that. But
oh no,
yeah,
I get it.
like
But
it's
like,
just not that it's not that great no more. Like it kind of it's just not the same. And hopefully, next year be better. The NBA go back to them Christmas Day jerseys, and the sneakers will come back and all those type of things.
yeah, because
But
I think
last night,
with night.
Luca had a big Christmas Day performance, with the 50 points. And
Yeah,
you can say Jaime, he was the first rookie to get 31 and 10 since 1985, like you mentioned, since Patrick Ewing. So, it was some good
I
milestones last night.
Yeah, so like that's the thing. I mean, he and Sixers. I mean, it probably would have meant something. I mean, I think they kind of cooked with that because I think it's Jimmy playing against his former team. They're kind of a little too late putting that matchup out there for Christmas Day, but oh well. You then had Mavs and Suns, which honestly didn't disappoint. Like I was cool with it, and you mentioned like Luca had 50 points, so it was great to see that, especially because I want to see KD continue to be pissed off with the Suns. I'm not trying to flirt any idea that he could potentially come to Miami.
He
I
had a
just want
bad
to let
game
it be
last night.
known that he chose the Suns over the Heat because those was his two options. But for some reason, he preferred the Suns more. So I want you to continue dealing with that nonsense over there. Meanwhile, we're gonna go over here and we're gonna cook with our squad the way how we look right now. So yeah,
It's getting
enjoy
ugly right
your time.
now in Phoenix.
Yeah. So you know what? Enjoy your time there. Enjoy Bradley Beal, who making 50 million just to average 14 points. Y'all was calling our brother Duncan, out for having a bad contract. Look
That
at what
contract looks
he's
pretty.
doing.
That looks like the worst contract in basketball right now.
Yeah, because Duncan making 90 mil, all right, and he averaging more points than Bradley Beal right now. At least I think he is, all right. Like you getting paid 250 mil right now, and you
Hey,
only averaging 14 points per game. Like be
yeah,
so for real right now, all right.
look at that Jalen Brown contract. Whew.
Don't even get me started about that. And you know what? People don't care about it too much because Boston is playing good. But once the playoffs come and that man is struggling again and they end up having another exit, whether if it's in the conference finals or wherever, I'm telling you, the TL is going to look nasty for that man. Like the
Boston,
second,
Boston
the
fans gonna be calling for his head.
yeah, like the second Boston gets eliminated, like if I'm Jalen, I'm just deleting all the social media because I would not want to be there if I'm him because they was already nasty last season. I've been seeing all types of crazy stuff talking about him and his left hand and everything. So if I'm Jalen, I would not even want to be on social media if they flop again this year, and he's making this type of money. But I mean, overall, I don't care because I personally like this team and for the Heat and I don't think there is a squad out there that can legitimately stop the squad. I mean, Bucks are a good team. I will give them their flowers. And same thing goes for Boston. I mean, they've shown it so far this season. But I don't think they can stop Miami. I do see flaws in these teams, which is the reason why I don't think it is a far-fetched idea to think
Not at
that
all. It's
this,
not a clear cut favorite this year, I believe.
yeah,
It's not at all. It's not a clear cut favorite. Even though Milwaukee got Dame and Middleton and obviously Giannis, I still think there's holes in that team. Obviously, Sixers is like they always got their flaws, especially time when the playoffs come. I just don't see. And if it is a clear cut favorite in the East, it'll be the Miami Heat.
yes,
Just off
sir.
reputation in the last 5 years, it'll
Yeah,
definitely be Miami Heat. But like, there's no clear cut favorite in the
right.
East.
And like, because that's the thing, because at least with Miami, we've been in this situation before, and
We
our
know what
guys
to do in the
are
playoffs.
battle tested and everything, Like,
Absolutely.
y'all keep coming out and saying that we don't got the squad that can compete with these other teams.
We
Yet
showed
we
it year in and year out for the past 5 years.
Exactly. We made it to the finals 2020. We were one shot away from making it back to the finals
Absolutely.
2022. We made it to the finals in 2023, beating all of the threats. We didn't have to face any weak teams to make that happen. We didn't face in the first round, a soft and cuddly team like the Hawks or whoever. We went and beat the Bucks in the first round, the team with the best record in the league. We
Talk
then
to me.
went out and beat the Knicks, who had a higher seed than us. And then we beat the Celtics, who allegedly had the most well-rounded roster in the whole NBA, just so they can make excuses about how the only reason why they even lost to Miami was because of the fact that Tatum sprained his ankle. When the truth was the fact that those losers shouldn't have even been down 3 games to nothing against an 8 seed in the first place. So none of these teams shake me whatsoever. The only thing I'm concerned about could be what could be ahead of us if we are to make it to the finals. And I mean, the West looks kind of like a huge question mark too. And I know y'all touched on it in Biscayne breakdown, but like the Nuggets. I mean, they're the defending champions, but you also have the Clippers. I mean, they're starting to get it together, but at the
They're
same
starting
time,
to, yeah.
they are a bit of a cursed team. So I don't know if I can trust them just
No.
yet because I know Kawhi is already starting to miss games. So I mean, I never want to wish injuries on anyone. So like, but regarding that situation, we'll have to see if he's gonna actually stay healthy this year. Phoenix, I don't know what the heck is going on there. But yeah, I mean, that's another squad
I
out.
got a prediction
They're,
on Phoenix.
say that again.
I have a prediction on Phoenix.
What do you think?
The Phoenix Suns won't make it out the first round of the playoffs this year. They won't make it out the first round of the playoffs this year. KD will not be back next year.
I'm gonna say this: if they do find a way to finish as I can see that happening if they finish as the bottom four team in the Western Conference. So I'm talking about they finish between seeds 5 through 8. I do believe that could be a possibility because I don't know if they can be.
So far, Joe, they're the 11th seed. They have a record of 14-15. I mean, they're a game out of the play-in tournament, but so far they're not in the play-in. I mean, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to
Crazy.
be tough. I don't see them making out the first round of the playoffs this year.
And like if he was on a team like the Heat, even if we were in that situation, we'd be in the finals regardless. We did that last year. We did it last year, but he didn't want to join us. He wanted to go join D Book, thinking he could have an easy ride with them. But oh well. I can make fun of KD all day, but it's the day after Christmas, so I'm gonna be a little nice. Before we wrap up this pod, though, we've talked about a lot in today's episode. The Heat are playing the Warriors. I'm trying to see the squad win because the 28th is going to be my birthday. So I'm trying to see the squad go out there and get the dub. Is there anyone that we know for sure is out for Golden State? Because I feel like Jimmy might end up missing this game. Because I know Steph.
Draymond, that's it. That's
Draymond.
it. Draymond.
I mean, shoot. So you know what? I'll say this and real quick. I know everyone's kind of worried with Jimmy sitting out games and stuff. Let that man do whatever he wants because you know what? As long as he's healthy come playoff time and no losers are trying to flop onto his ankle, we should be good, man. I would be fine with him missing all 82 games if this team could hold their own in the regular season. But let him get his rest. Let him heal up so that we can go out there and be ready come playoff time. And for us to continue to go out there and rack up these wins while he heals up, that means a lot to me because this is like last night was like his third straight missed game, and we still handled business, and that's what I love to see. So, I mean, regarding this game, I mean, the Heat, they've showed their resilience throughout this entire season and showed that even with guys like Bam, Tyler, or Jimmy injured, they could still find a way to go out there and claw out for a victory. So I think the Heat are going to find a way to get this win because, like I said, it's my special day. So I'm going to need the Heat to get the dub. And yeah, go out there, try to blow the Warriors out because it would only be the Miami Heat thing to do that when you're missing one of your star players, or at least make it a close game where either Jaime cooks or maybe a guy like I don't know who could be that one guy that might have a monster game for the Heat that you could least expect it. If I had to pick maybe a guy aside from Jaime, I don't know, maybe a dude like. Well, I don't know. Jay Rich not even. We don't even know if that dude's
We
gonna
don't
play.
even know what's going on with Jay Rich.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. His situation's kind of a mess. He's been kind of up and down this year.
Yeah, it's been up and down a lot.
I don't know, but overall, regardless of who bowls out for the Heat, just go out there and get the dub, man. Is there any expectations you have for the Heat in this upcoming game?
Against Golden State.
Yep.
Golden State is a pretty up and down team so far. I don't know, man. Just go out and win. They're pretty up, and both teams are solid. I do think Miami is the better team, they do have the better coach, but you never know with Golden State. Like, you just never know what you're going to get from Golden State.
Yeah, and like I said, the Miami Heat, I mean, you said, like, you never know what it's going to be like with this team because, I mean, I remember 2022 when we got that whole fight going on our bench. We lost that game to a team that didn't have Steph, Clay, or Draymond. So I'm not saying that's going to happen to Miami tomorrow or on the 28th. Just had to knock on wood just to make sure that, loss wouldn't happen. But yeah, like I can see the squad go out there and make this a close competitive game. And if Jimmy can come back, God bless him. Obviously, there's no rush for him whatsoever, especially because it's a calf injury. We can see what it can do to players if it keeps on lingering and stuff. So,
those calf injuries are what's, man. Like, they just linger. You want to take your time with those. Like, me personally, once I see guys out with calf injuries, no matter where we at in the season, if it's not like deep in the playoffs, I want guys to get as much time as they can. Like now, where we at in the season, I would just just come back when you're 100% healthy. Like, you don't want that lingering late in March, April. You just don't want that calf injury lingering.
Because God forbid it, but like whenever I think about like those types of injuries, I always think about what KD dealt with when he was he was dealing with that calf injury for so long, but he wanted to play for his team in the finals, and we saw how that worked out for him, and how he ended up missing the remainder of the finals and all of the following season with that Achilles injury. And you never want that to happen to one of your guys because you rushed them, especially for a regular season game. And I know the Miami Heat know that. So, shout outs to us for actually having a medical staff that cares for our players. So, but yeah, I mean, Miami Heat, go out there, go get this dub. And I mean, there's nothing much more to really say. Is there anything you want to throw in, Deem?
No, man. Just let's go Heat. That's all I got to say so far.
Yes, sir. So with that all being said, man, thank y'all so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast. Make sure to follow my guy Deem at BLDeem. That's 2 E's in Deem. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at JoeKJacob_. Make sure to follow Heat vs. the World on all platforms at HVTW Podcast. And make sure to subscribe to this very YouTube channel if you're watching this on YouTube. And, check out all of our content wherever you see us. Wherever you see Heat vs. the World, check it out. And if they have an option for you to follow or do whatever it is that they ask you to do, I do not care. Just support page whatever way you can, man. We're continuing to grow. Y'all saw with Biscayne Breakdown with their recent episode. Y'all see with our other shows going on behind the scenes, Dolphins vs. the World and all that. And we're just gonna keep pumping out the content because that's just what we do. And with that all being said, man, we'll see you guys next time with a brand new episode of Heat vs. the World. And very soon another episode of Biscayne Breakdown featuring Demon, our guy K. But until then, man, hit my music because we out.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time with a brand new episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast.